This microphone's really loud. How's that volume if I hold it here? Okay, good. Well, I'm Jason, and our channel's Gone with the Winds.
I'm Nikki, and of course, we've been, oh golly, I don't know if I should go into our whole story right this second, but we left back in 2010 was when we first started. I'm going way back. Because some of you are here. How many of you followed us from the RV days? Raise a hand. All right, a few of you. Way to go, guys, hanging in there. You all get a gold star when you leave. So anyway, we started back in 2010. We didn't really have a YouTube channel back then. We just had, my aunt and uncle had bought an RV, and we had never even really thought about it. Like, it wasn't even an inkling of an idea. But my uncle was so excited because he had just retired, and he said, we bought this RV, we're gonna go drive around the country, you gotta come over and see it. So he took us to a storage lot, and we were just kind of like, oh, okay, well, we'll entertain him, you know. And we get out there, and he takes us inside, and he pushes out these slides, and all of a sudden, it's like a full-on apartment in there, and we were like, what? You can drive this
I'm gonna
around
buy
the
one of
country?
these things. That's what we said.
Oh, yeah, we were like, we should get one of these. And then before you know it, we did. We went and bought one. We were a bunch of newbies, didn't know what we were doing, bought a lemon. And
it
anyway.
was in one video.
Yeah. Anyway, so that kind of got us started. We took off around the country. We did that for almost 7 years. Started a YouTube channel along the way. Never thought it was going to be anything. We thought it was going to be for like our friends and family, who turns out our friends and family don't really like to watch, but other people do. So thank you for helping us feel loved when we didn't feel loved by our family.
By the way, Mom, are you here?
And crickets.
She's here somewhere in this state, in this city. She's supposed to be here.
Go figure. She's actually in her own RV, probably broken down somewhere, and wondering where the heck we are. Anyway, so that was almost 7 years ago, and then, of course, I had the huge desire to buy a sailboat and go sail around the world, and Jason agreed that it wasn't divorce-worthy, so he would go along. And here he is. And he will 100% agree with you, or agree with Keith on that he doesn't like sailing. He loves the lifestyle, passage making, he could do without. Me, on the other hand, I actually love it. I am excited the moment we take off, and I know that we're gonna be out there. So anyway, we've been at it for almost 4 years now. We have Kent to blame and thank all at the same time. He hears it regularly. And so, yeah, that's us. That's us. So I think today we're talking about, because everybody in here has either gone through this experience or you're going through it right now, which is buying a boat, right? And so if you're in the early stages, we kind of thought this is something they've done twice because they didn't get it right the first time. If they would have
They're a little dense.
If they would have had a good broker, it might have worked out a little bit better. We didn't know what we were going to get, and Kent said, if you want a half a boat, I'll sell you a half a boat. But he said, if you want a real boat, let's go.
And just because this is a separate video, you guys should introduce yourself as well, because I believe Just Catamarans is going to be sharing all these talks.
Okay, so this isn't very loud, is it? Can you hear me?
Intentional.
This one's really loud, that one's really soft.
Yeah, you want
That's what she said.
you want to... All right, now, yeah, this is what I'm used to, the big boy. All right, so I'm Keith Whitaker. This is Renee, Kate, Finn, and Jack. We have to do that for the videos. And Anna's back there working the booth, and we are from Sailing Zatara. Do I need to do the whole spiel? So this little episode's about buying a boat. And like Nikki said, we have bought 2 boats. We didn't get it right the first time, and they didn't get it right either. They had an RV. They didn't realize they needed a boat. Yeah, we bought the Beneteau here in Florida, went to Australia, sold it, like I said, and then we bought the one in Greece and the Catamaran, and that's when life really got better. What do y'all want to? Oh, brokers, the bad word, the B word, brokers. All right, guys. So, and in all fairness, I'm a straight shooter here, and I'm gonna tell you how I feel. and it has no reflection on Just Catamarans. They've been very gracious. I don't know them very well. I've met them over the last couple of days. They've invited us to this event, and they're great people. Nikki and Jason vouch for them. So my opinion of brokers doesn't relate to them because I've never dealt with them. But in all the years that we've been sailing and all the boat transactions I've done, I have yet to meet a broker that I would leave my children with. And that's fact. Now, I'm sure Kent and them are great people. I haven't dealt with them, but the boating industry is in dire need of people with integrity and boat brokers. So if you've watched my videos, our videos, and you know what I think of brokers, and you know what I think of the process. And from talking to Kent and Just Catamarans, and I'm not plugging for them, they haven't given me anything here, they seem like people with integrity who are trying to change that persona in the industry. So, I hope they're getting it done, and I hope and Nikki and Jason say they are, and that's good news. So brokers are a pain in my thorn. And as for Zatara, Zatara actually just became our boat last week after 2 years of Greek bureaucracy. So that's now our boat. And you want me to tell that story about that? All right. You want to hear that? Okay, so I'll make it quick. I won't beat around the bush. So the first boat was a non-event. We bought it. We had a crappy broker. He ripped my sell stuff, and we sold it. And the second boat, though, I learned from the first experience with the boat brokers we were dealing with. And so here's how this transpired and what I learned. And I wasn't in a business mode. When I left business and the corporate world, I was done thinking legally and thinking risk and protecting my own butt and trying to do that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to buy a boat and go sailing. Well, after the first one, I put on my chainmail armor and got my lawyer head back in the game, and I said, all right, here we go. Nobody's going to screw with me this time. So I negotiated a contract on the first boat with the owner of the boat, and I had another broker that was helping me pick out the boat. Well, we found the boat, we took it to this other broker and said, hey, can you find out the details of this boat in Greece? And we brought him into the fray. It wasn't just Catamarans, it was another outside broker. And he found the boat, did some due diligence on it, and then he said, yeah, Keith, fly over here and let's look at the boat. Well, he didn't fly over there, I flew over there. And I looked at the boat and I loved it. It was a Privilege 585, the one you see on the show. And so we started negotiating, and I met the owner of the boat. His name was Merrick. He's a really great guy. And he thought it would be a no deal. We made an offer. That went through. We negotiated on some things. And then I put in the contract, the actual contract that I wanted, I put several items that are important to understand. And like I said, we just closed on that boat after 2 years. Actually, February 27th, it will be 2 years. And we just closed last week on the boat. I put in the contract, and this would make most boat brokers cringe, I get to live and use the boat until we close, okay? And the owner agreed to that, and because we were men of goodwill, and he got the impression that I wasn't a crook, and I got the impression he wasn't a crook. And so we put that in there. And he would pay the insurance on it, and he would add me as captain. Well, in his mind, he thought, well, we're going to close in 60 days. Worst case, it's 60 days. He's going to use the boat. Well, he didn't count it on the Greek bureaucracy causing him all kinds of problems. So what Merrick had to do is he had to pay the insurance on that boat for the last 2 years, and I had it in the contract that he had to pay the maintenance on the boat for the last 2 years. Okay? Now, that is a rare situation, and in his defense, he didn't think it would go 2 years. And I had the opportunity, and I also had in that program that I could cancel the deal at any time up until the time I wired the final money. So up until last week, I got to say, Merrick, we've sold the world twice. Here's your boat back. See you later. And I had to put money in escrow, and I put most of the money in escrow, and I kept part of the money in my own account as part of the deal because I didn't want the broker having control over me, and I didn't want Merrick having control over me. So I kept about $100,000 out of the deal in my own account, and I negotiated that with Merrick. Now, the broker hated this. My broker that I brought to the party was telling Merrick he was crazy to sign that deal, and he was trying to sabotage the deal the whole way through. And I said, whose team are you on? You know, my team, you on his team? And I wasn't trying to screw Merrick. I was just trying to get a deal that was safe and good for Merrick, because I knew I was going to do what I said I was going to do. So in the end, it turned out good for Merrick. He got through the Greek bureaucracy. We got to use the boat. The euro-dollar exchange rate helped him recoup that money back, because when we first initially did the deal, the euro was way stronger than the dollar. And as the dollar has strengthened over the last couple of years, it helped him recoup about 60,000 of those insurance things. So negotiating your contract is very important, and your brokers are, and it should be a win for everybody. It should be a win for you. It should be a win for the seller or the buyer, the seller, and the broker. But you're in control if you're buying that boat, and get what you want and negotiate what you want, and don't let somebody flip yours and say, you'll never get that done, you'll never get that done, because people have been telling me no my whole life, and look where I'm at today. So don't listen to the no's, okay? Do what you got to do, get the deal you want to get done, and make sure it's a win-win for everyone, all right? And that's our experience with buying the boat. And there'll be Q&A. You can ask questions about that if I haven't covered a lot of that, and then I'll hand the mic back to the...
Yeah. Test, test. Hello. Yeah, what? Hello. Excellent.
Okay.
I'm going to keep this one.
So our experience was drastically different from Zatara, and that's why I think this is a really good compare and contrast for this conversation, is I would say across the board from the whole process to even to cruising is so drastically different. So it's a good variation up here. For us, we didn't know a lick either whenever we started. We had been out a couple of times on day sails with friends, 3 times, maybe 4. It wasn't a lot. We didn't know diddly squat, so we didn't know what we were looking at. We thought we were going to be able to buy a catamaran for $100,000, maybe $150,000. And I just want to say that whenever we first told Kent that, he didn't even laugh like you just did. That took some self-control. So for us, we didn't know what we were doing. We knew that we needed somebody who could help us, and we had talked to enough people who were out in the sailing community that luckily gave us some really good advice, and we knew that we didn't want to go at it alone, right? But we had met with a few different people, we had talked to a few different brokers, and wow, did we have the heebie-jeebies. We had some really uncomfortable first looks at some boats, and it just was enough that you're like, wow, that'll be the last time we ever meet with that guy or girl. And so from there we thought, okay, we need a recommendation. How the heck do you find a good broker? And we didn't know, and I still, honestly, I don't really know what to tell you. And I'm hoping that maybe at some point we can talk to some of the brokers at Just Catamarans about like tips on what do you look for, what's appropriate to ask, what's appropriate to do. Unbiased, if they can possibly be that way. But for us, we were looking for a recommendation. We had a friend, and he said, look, if you're willing, because we were in California at the time, and he said, if you're willing to drive to Florida, he said, here's this guy's phone number. It's the guy that sold us our first boat, and he was a really nice guy. And if you know anything about brokers, that's saying a lot. And so it was Kent, and so we talked to him over the phone. We thought, all right, we're going to give it a go, and so we drove across the country to come to Florida to look at boats, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions as far as setting us off on the right foot. So it was a stroke of good luck. I don't know, but we got lucky whenever it came to that, because it could have gone so very different for us than what it did.
And, you know, when we came to Kent and we said we got a $100,000 budget, he didn't laugh. He just said, come to Florida, we'll walk through these boats, and you tell me what you want out of a boat, and I'm not going to try to influence you at all. And that sort of, I don't know what you call that. He didn't pressure us into anything, and I know some of the other brokers that work with him have the same morals, and I know there's other brokers all around the world that probably have the same morals. But trying to find that person, I know, is extremely difficult. I wish there was some sort of rating system, and there may be, but, you know, you just have to take a friend's advice. And when you find that broker and they make you feel good, then go on that journey with them.
Yeah. So I think, and through like a lot of our friends who have now bought boats and had good and bad experiences, we've asked a lot of questions through that, and a few red flags have come up for us. And so when we've been talking to our friends and they're like, well, but I found this broker, he seems like a nice guy. He's he's already the seller of the boat, but he said he can be our buyer's broker too. And I was like, whoa, bad idea. Bad idea. He has everything to gain on both sides. How could he possibly be the right person for this. And it gave me a red flag because there was a boat that was on the Just Catamarans dock, and it was actually another leopard, and it was an older leopard, and it was slightly smaller than what we were looking at. It was a 39. And we said, well, Kent, do you think we should go look at that boat? And he said, I'll let you go down there and you can go look at it on your own. But he said, I don't feel comfortable going with you. And he said, because look, he said, that's my listing. And so then I would be the buyer's broker and the seller's broker. And he said, that's a real, it's legal, but it's a gray area. And he said, it's going to be really hard for me to be unbiased about that. He's like, I have too much to gain. So you go look at it. And if you really think that that's the boat you want, then you can come back and we'll talk about it. But he said, I'd prefer not to go with you. And so that, I was like, well, we didn't really know at the time that that was a big deal, but I know now that was a big deal. That was a good sign. And so when we've had friends that have said, oh, well, I've got this boat, I'm like, bad idea. Get your own broker. And anybody that's willing to sell you that boat and is pressuring you to do that, and this guy was definitely pressuring our friends to do that, it just gave me the heebie-jeebies. And turns out that ended up being a nightmare. They did get a buyer's broker, and thank goodness they did. They had all kinds of contractual issues. So there are telltales like that, I think, that give that away, that somebody's working for you and not against you, or not just out to get your money. Helping us learn how to look at boats, that was another big one.
So Kent's not that great of a guy. I mean, we came with a $100,000 budget. He sold us a $330,000 boat. So I don't want you to think that he's perfect by any means. Maybe a perfect broker in that aspect.
He'll take your money.
Yeah, he'll take your money, and he'll sell you a bigger boat. You want a bigger boat? So let's talk about before you sign that paper. What you think that's probably the next step? Before you sign those papers, what should be going through your head? What should you be thinking about? And one we found yesterday was insurance. So we're looking at these new leopards out on the dock, and they're $1 million, $2 million, $500,000. Well, right now we pay $5,000 for insurance in the South Pacific for our boat, which is worth $300,000 or something.
Which is, insurance has become extremely difficult to get. So make sure that you are getting quotes long before you ever put down an offer even. Call and get a quote. Like, getting insurance can just get real tricky, and that can end up costing you a lot of time and effort when it comes to closing.
Keith?
Yeah, that's for sure. Insurance is a big deal because of all the storms. So there's been lots of boats, lots of insurance companies that went broke and bankrupt, and so check, exactly right. And then when you do get that insurance quote, look at the fine print in that of what they require from you. We've got over 35,000 nautical miles of cruising in almost all the waters except Indian Ocean and Southeast Asia and Indonesia. And we went out for renewal when we closed on Zatara because now I could put insurance in my name. And my kids have experience. We all have experience in lots of different waters. And all the insurance companies and agents we were using in South Florida 2-3 years ago were turning me down. They said, no, they're not interested in insuring you. They're not interested in you. We've never had an accident, never had a claim. And Nikki and JC hooked me up with their guy, and he wrote it. And he wrote it competitively. We spend $10,000 a year on a $625,000 insured vessel. So insurance is huge right now until they get some more. If we don't stop having hurricanes and losses out there, it's going to be the insurers guys who are getting away with everything. So check your insurance rates before you buy a boat, like they said, and check the fine print of what they require from you.
And every year for us, it's like pulling teeth. And even though we've sailed further and further, we get the same thing from the insurance company saying, hey, you need to have a captain on board, or you need to have 2 more crew on board for that. And I'm like, well, we just crossed the Pacific on our own. Why do we need somebody to do a little 500-mile sail? But every year, it's like pulling teeth, and we've had to change insurance companies every year. So it is definitely a struggle, and learning in advance that it might cost you money to have a captain on board, especially because we didn't know anybody. Fortunately, Kent was gracious enough with his time. He sailed with us from the anchorage to the shop so we could then get work done, and then from the shop back to the anchorage so we didn't have to spend money on dock space. So these are all little things that maybe you haven't thought of when you're new, of expenses that are going to be highly expensive. I mean, a captain for a day is $500 to $1,000, I think.
A little less.
300.
You can get them for around $250.
You can get a credit card captain for about $100 a day. How's that sound? What's next in the process?
Oh, it just, I would say I don't know, just when you get ready to sign that acceptance of vessel form, that's the final thing where you don't get to get your money back. Is that the same way y'all do it, Kent?
Pending survey.
So you do survey, yeah, survey and inspection, so those, or survey.
That's a good, okay, so you did your own survey, didn't you?
No, I had it done.
Okay.
I had a survey done. The first time I had a survey done, matter of fact, the guy that gave the talk here, I think did the survey for us on the first Zatara boat. And he did a good job. It was a new boat, so there wasn't a whole lot to go wrong with it. But surveying, y'all go first, and I'll talk about surveying.
He's like, you go first, then I'll fill in. Yeah. So for us, there is a website, and we've listed this on our.
In our buying, when we were buying, we listed some websites on how
Yeah.
to find a surveyor.
So we have a post on it, and we listed the websites where you can go to find like an accredited surveyor. And surveyors are unfortunately a little bit like finding a broker. You can't just go pick up any random Joe or Jill. You want to make sure that you get a good one. Again, how do you know? Recommendation, ask around at the boatyard, ask around at a yacht club, get on the sailing forums, ask it like a local sailing forum, make sure that it's in your area where you're looking.
And you can ask your broker, but you have to really trust your broker because
They're technically
not supposed to recommend, but
He's like,
you're worried that if you hire a surveyor based on your broker's recommendation, if you don't fully trust your broker, then he might be setting you up with somebody who is in his benefit.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
If they want to sell the boat and you're willing to put an offer in, then they're going to be able, they'll work with you. They don't want to take every tire kicker out, and I completely understand that, because if it was me selling, I wouldn't want to do that either. But when we had put the offer in and it had been accepted on our vessel, the current owner said, well, I have to sail it from A to B for the survey. Do you want to join me? You know, we said, absolutely. He said, no, of course, I'm not giving you the captain's quarters. You're going to have to go over in the guest hall. But so he took us, and we got to go on that sail. So we were on that boat for 2 days, and that was fantastic. So he showed us so much. We got to see how the boat performed, and that was a big testament to how he felt about that boat. He knew it was in good condition. He felt comfortable taking us out, knowing that they're going to love this so much that that's going to just encourage them to, you know, make that closing date and want to keep this boat. And he was right. It absolutely did. We were sold after that, and we were in love, and he could have not even taken our counter offer, and we might have still bought the boat. So.
Okay, so now you've found that perfect boat. You've done your research. You've signed the papers. The signing the papers part was pretty anticlimactic for us. It's just some paperwork and moving some money from bank to bank. Having that money ready when you're ready to sign those papers is kind of important, because every delay could cost you the boat, because somebody might come in, something might happen. But let's just say you've signed the papers, you paid the money, and now it's time.
And you have to have insurance.
Insurance. We had insurance within the first 10 minutes of us purchasing the boat, because we had pre-talked to the insurance company. And we did speak to somebody yesterday that didn't have insurance. Something happened to their boat right when they accepted the offer. They basically lost their boat, or it cost them $100,000. I can't remember what the story was, but it was terrible. Let's just assume that everything's okay. Now it's time for service. You have to find a place to get all that work done, so then you can go cruising. So service is another exciting part of the journey. I would say the number one thing is get the most important things done first that have to be done before you start adding all the stuff you want to be done. And being realistic with your time frames. A lot of people will buy a boat, us included. I want to go to the Bahamas in a month. It might be 3 months. It might be 6 months. Boat yards are extremely busy. So trying to plan is extremely frustrating, just to say the least.
Every boat project, whether you're doing it or whether somebody else is doing it, however much time, if you think it's going to be a half an hour job, it'll be 2, 3, 4, 8. I mean, it always ends up growing. It never is like a cookie cutter. This is exact every time. Boats are all so unique. They're so different. They get modified in different ways. It's nuts. So be prepared for service to take a long time. It can be very frustrating. Things don't always go right. I would say that was probably the most painful part of the process for us, was yard work. And even when we saw how much we had to do, our jaw hit the ground. We didn't expect it to be so much. So we worked with Just Catamarans and we said, all right, what of these items do you think we can do on our own versus what we should pay you to do? And they were really good about that. So it was an educational process for us, and we did a lot of the work ourselves because we couldn't afford to have it all done professionally. And so that's something to look at too. And if you are willing to be DIY and learn, it's great. You're going to learn your boat. You're going to learn a heck of a lot. And so when it breaks the next time, you're going to be so much faster at fixing it than you were the first time. That really helps.
Hopefully.
Jason knows a lot about that. And the job is never done proper until you've done it 3 times.
Exactly. And for service, double the time, double the money.
How do you feel about that? Same?
Yeah. Service is a whole nother animal. And I'm Mr. Negativity here. No, I'm not. When you buy that boat, and everybody asks me all the time, what can I expect? What can I expect after the purchase price? So let's say you're buying a $300,000 boat or a $400,000 boat. I tell people if you're buying boats in that range, you need to plan probably on $50,000 to $100,000 in refit cost, because you're going to want to make that boat your own. You're going to want to fix the things that are wrong with it that you didn't get fixed or wouldn't get fixed, and you're going to do stuff. So just for budgetary purposes, I would always expect to spend, if you're saying, well, I've got a $100,000 budget to buy a boat, well, you've got to add another 50 on that. That means you can buy a $75,000 boat and you're going to spend $25,000 fixing it. So always have in your mind, if you're boat buyers, I know most of y'all own your boats already, but if you're getting ready to buy a boat, think about the afterthought, because you're going to spend a lot more money than you thought. It's not just that initial boat purchase, it's the money you're going to spend afterwards, and generally $50,000 to $100,000 is what you're going to spend after that, getting that boat ready to go blue water cruising and go around the world. And that's what I've seen, except for young couples that buy a beat up boat and they just DIY, and they, the sails are flat, everything's cut and ripped. But for everybody in here, I can see you're going to take your family, you're going to take care of them, you're going to do what's right and build a boat right.
And I think, from there, you've picked up the boat, it's now ready to go, and that's when the dream really starts, and that's when the real adventure starts, and that's why we go through all of it. It's not to complain, that's why we share. It's not to complain through that whole process, but it's to help give people realistic expectations. But once you pick up that hook and you start that overnight sail to the Bahamas for the first time and you're passing that Gulf Stream, it's just the most, the hair's raising up on my arms right now, because it's just the most incredible feeling. And you think you're doing something amazing, and you are, because you've finally gotten out of the dang dock. Yeah. And that is what it's all about.
Being on the hard is no fun. It is no fun.
That's, I think, kind of generally the boat buying process, without getting into every single aspect of it. Right before we dive into the Q&A, if Kent or somebody else is interested, I would love to just quickly, if you have any tips on, because Kent, you now don't act as a broker anymore, I don't think, right? Yes or no? Yeah, right.
Famous.
No. But you're hiring brokers and you're managing your brokers. So what do you look for when you're looking to hire a broker that's going to represent your company and sell boats attached to your name? Yeah.
And we're going to do about 10 minutes, and then we'll do lunch.
I'll get there. Okay. Hello? Okay. I get very nervous in front of people. So I'm not comfortable here, but Nikki makes me even more uncomfortable. So the question? Okay, so the question is, what do we look for in brokers?
Yeah, how do you go about hiring?
Well, as much money as they can make, and the biggest boat we can sell, the better. For us as a company, and I'm not pushing our company, it's for anything, but our biggest...
Where you go to look for a broker.
Yeah, as a company, our logo for this year basically is make a difference. So what difference can we make to you for your plans, for your dreams, for the guys and girls in our company? Are we making a difference? So, we want to say, oh, Jason and Nikki, are we making a difference? Are we helping you, realize your dream and take your money.
But so, like, when you're interviewing somebody that wants to come, because you've got new brokers this year, like, or
Yeah,
last,
we
since
got
I was last
we got a couple brokers, so we got 5 or 6 brokers at work, and a few up the coast, and it's imperative. And Thomas heads up all the brokerage, which is a very difficult thing to keep brokers under control. Brokers can be animals all by themselves, and I know. I mean, I work with brokers. I worked with 20 years working with brokers. I used to captain here in Fort Lauderdale 4 brokers, and I used to see all sorts of things going on, and the brokers and the surveyors having their little team thing, like you were saying, that is fairly common, so you have to be aware, I'm really nervous. Yeah.
So, but I would say, like, what do you, I'll give an example. So Terry, redheaded Terry, running around here somewhere. Yeah, so he was in service at Just Catamarans whenever we brought our boat in. So he was working on odd jobs on our boat as well, and he ended up becoming a friend, and we asked him to join us on sailing school. We went out for our sailing school on our boat. So Terry was on board with us, and we asked him to come because he's just so passionate about sailing. He wants to buy a boat of his own and go sailing around the world. His dad is Catamaran Impy on YouTube, if you've ever seen that. So his dad is currently sailing around the world, and so he's just so incredibly passionate, right? So he loved to sit and just yap with us, and he was so excited for us whenever we got started. And so we said, hey, we have to go do the sailing school, and I know you've already been through sailing school, but we could use somebody to help hold a camera and stuff like that, just because we want to capture the experience. And we said, would you be willing to take a week off of work? And do you want to come sailing with us for a week? And he was like, absolutely, I'd love to. So, but now Terry is a broker, and he's now selling boats. So he has worked on them, and now he's selling boats. But I'm curious, and I know you, or maybe can be unbiased or not, but what made you think he was ready to sell a boat and that he was capable of looking after people that way? Because you, like you said, make a difference, but if he doesn't do a good job, he could sell somebody the wrong boat, or he could fall through on something, or he could cost somebody a boat that was going to be the right boat. Like, how did you feel like he was ready for that?
Yeah, the focus to be for any broker, or for you as a buyer, hopefully you're all buyers, and just for a little information, all the empty seats are people who looked and read through the fine print on the tokens that you signed up for. Electronically, all of you agreed to buy a boat through Just Catamarans. So, I'm your guy.
So, I mean, do you have any general tips on if you're going to look for a broker, like, how do you know?
The thing with looking for a broker is that you need to be in charge of what you're looking for. The broker is sometimes, and fairly commonly, is going to try and push you, like Nikki was saying, into what they've got listed. Such a dangerous position to be in. But you do have control, and you got to be in control in your first boat.
Use the mic, please.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm mumbling, and I got to, you have to be in control of the deal right from the beginning, and that means the broker must not lead you around by the nose. You have to be strong about it. Unfortunately, you can't always rely on a broker, myself included. You have to work at, informing yourself on the boat, or on boats, whichever one you're going to buy, and then going through the process. Like you are now, you're listening to this sort of conversation, going online. Forums are a great thing. They're also a dangerous thing, because there's a lot of experts on forums who sit on a bar stool and been around the world 3 times. And YouTube as well, very dangerous with shady people. That you got to watch them, and through watching lots of print out there and social media, you can educate yourself by watching a cross section, and then you pick up on people who you think you can run with and then follow them more, listen to them, and but do not trust a broker straight off the bat. Get a good feel, and be educated on what you're looking at.
Keith, it looked like you had something to add to that.
I do. If I had to look for a broker today with what I know for people who are never sailed, and if you look at a broker's resume, most of the brokers out there online, especially the one I just used, they'll advertise, I was a race captain. I was performance racing. None of that racing and performance, even building boats is a little better, but all that racing and all that stuff, it has nothing to do with our lives where we're cruising. If I had to pick a perfect broker, it'd be a broker who took his family around the world on a boat and lived on a boat and has experienced the same thing I'm fixing to experience. Now, you can't find those all the time, but if you could find the perfect broker, it'd be someone who cares about family, cares about your journey you're fixing to take. Just like when I first was looking for a dinghy, I went to several dinghy shops here in South Florida, and they said, oh yeah, this is what you need. Well, they didn't have a clue what I needed. They never cruised around the world and taken a family of 6 around the world. So that's very important, is to have a broker who understands your mission, what you're fixing to do, and truly cares about your mission. Not just selling a boat, but cares about what you're doing. And if you don't get that feeling that they've done that before, or they know somebody that's done that before, then that's just the things I would look for in a perfect broker, is find somebody who has experience either building boats and understands what you're going to go through, fixing, maintaining, and integrity. Integrity is a huge deal. Brokers aren't perfect. They're human beings. They make mistakes. But find the ones that will own those mistakes, say, man, I screwed up. This is what we got to do. And that's just what I wanted to add to that.
Yeah. Another thing is, you don't shoot myself here, but you don't have to use a broker. But it's a very, yeah. But that can be a treacherous path all by itself. And many times we've seen from a seller's perspective and from a buyer's perspective that they say, oh, no, I don't need to, and the going rate is 10%. For you guys, it's 9% today. Well, these guys are getting 5% back. So
That's exactly right.
No, the thing, you can do a deal yourself. Like Walter was telling me, he's got a deal on a Leopard 46 outside of a broker, and that's the end of the relationship, Walter. But you can do it yourself, and but be informed, because I've seen so many buyers and sellers get burned through doing a deal by themselves and not being aware of the legalities and of the pitfalls of getting a boat, to save the commission. South Africans are traditionally, in Afrikaans we'll say, goedkoop, which means, we'll always slim, which means that we're too clever and we can make a way around not paying a broker. And, so we try and make a way around as a culture, but to be honest, it doesn't work here. It's very difficult. So by all means, see if you can work a deal with a seller. There's a couple of platforms where you can find boats for sale by owner. And it can go very well, but be aware that it can also fall apart, and fall apart spectacularly.
Do brokers have licenses like real estate agents?
Yeah, we can buy them online. No, but there's a licensing process. So if I wanted to become a broker, I have to work underneath a brokerage house, right? So a brokerage there's a period. Is it 2 years, I think?
Yeah, and that's per state. So most states don't require it, but Florida does, California does. There's a few that require it to ensure that you're not getting someone who just said, I want to be a broker today. Let's say so.
Yeah.
One of those states where we require a license, and you have to have that vetting process.
Yeah, as a Florida registered broker or brokerage, you'll have out-of-state brokers or the guy's friend trying to be a broker. And things get hairy and prickly very quickly, because they start demanding things, and there's an etiquette, should be an etiquette between brokerage houses to work with each other. And generally it works very well, but sometimes, guys who are not in the business demand things, and things fall apart for the buyer, unfortunately, when they don't need to. But yeah, there is a vetting process.
So Kent was not meant to be up here. He didn't expect that. So I'm sorry. I could see your hand shaking. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I also know that you know, and it is kind of a very precarious part of the whole process. And so I feel like it's really important for you to be informed and to know that going into it, because it's just, knowledge is everything, right? So thank you very much, and for being honest, Thomas, do we have time for a couple of Q&A? No. He's saying no. A few? 10 minutes. Okay. So do you have a mic? You want to take this one? Or that one, or whatever? And again, this is like, doesn't have to be about boat buying. This can be about absolutely anything. You feel free to offend Keith. Please be nice to me.
I will say very quickly, I love your words on finding a broker, Keith, that sails around the world. So it sounds like Keith's going to be our next broker, Just Catamarans. So what do you guys think?
I've actually got 2 questions for Keith. One, how did your broker feel about getting to wait for 2 years to be able to, before he got paid, or did he have to wait?
All right, so the question was, everybody heard the question? How my broker, the broker that was wonderful. Yeah. It wasn't just Catamarans, guys. But I actually saw him at the boat show yesterday. They wouldn't even say hi to me. It was a horrible experience with them. But they didn't like it. They wanted their money. They didn't like the deal.
But they did have to wait.
The seller on the other end said, I can't believe, he would ask me through the course of the 2 years, he said, do those guys represent you or me? And when the seller is saying that, you got to be asking yourself, well, who did I just hire? And if you call me, I'll tell you who they were. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, he didn't like it. The broker didn't like it. He didn't get his commission, and the only thing I did wrong in that negotiation is I asked for an interest clause for my money sitting in escrow for 2 years, because I was always thinking long term. And my broker said, no, you'll never get that done. You don't need that. It's only going to be 60 days, and it ain't even a whole lot of money. Well, 2 years later, on that much money, that would have been a lot of money. But and I wanted to add back on that. The guy that sold me the boat, I could have made him pay for all the maintenance on that boat. I had it in my contract, but I didn't. Because I used the boat, and I was fair to him, and I didn't nickel and dime him, and we had to put a new generator in the boat, and I took care of that on my own, and I put new sail. I did a lot of things that I could have made him do, but I didn't, because that's not the kind of guy I am.
Right.
So that's a good question.
So my second question goes back to the insurance. I remember you guys had some friends that did a passage and dropped their insurance. How are they doing? I'm just curious.
So he's talking about Tandem Malika, the Catamaran, the Leopard 46. They were they're still friends of ours. They sail around the world. They hit the reef in Wahine, and they didn't have insurance, and that boat got dragged off the reef, and the guy made a house out of it, and their kids are all grown now and on their own, and they're not sailing anymore. And but they're empty nesters, and he's a pilot, and they've went on with their lives. The sailing dream was kind of over for them there. Next questions.
So, Jason and Nikki, quick question for you. Cat litter. Where do you keep the litter box? I know the cat litter was in one of your episodes, and I know that can be difficult to get all in different places, but when you have it, where does that reside?
So everybody's default is to want to put it in a head because easier to clean or whatever the case may be, but we knew all of ours were going to be used potentially by visitors and everything else, and we didn't want to have to shuffle the litter box around. And I didn't want to have to take it out of the shower every single time just to be able to take a shower. So that's a pain in the rear end to move it around. So we put it underneath the trash can, right where it should be. No, if I could have put it directly on top and had them just go in, we would have done that. So for us, it is like there's a little a shelf there. We had the Jason built the shelf. We had Just Catamarans cut it. They charged us a lot. No. So, but they cut it for us.
Just for one hole, they charged us a lot of money.
Yeah, so we cut a hole in the cabinet, and that became the cat door. So it's pretty discreet, which is why you don't notice it. So job well done on our part. Unfortunately, for the next buyer, I hope they have a cat. because that's where the litter box goes. But that's been a good spot for us, and it was just because there was enough room height-wise, and that just worked out, and the trash can already went there because it has that nice little lift-up spot. So anyway, that was us. You got anything to add to that?
This is for either whoever wants to answer it. We have a couple of friends that have already joined the Around the World Arc, and it's a lot of money to do that way. Would you say it's worth it, or you've both done obviously it on your own?
Are you asking if sailing is worth the cost?
No, is joining that arc worth?
We haven't
doing
done
it?
the Around the World. Yeah.
So Around the World Arc, everybody know what that is? Excuse me. It's an organization where it's a rally, and they start in Europe, or they go. There's lots of them. There's Pacific Arc. There's the puddle jump, and then there's one that goes across the Atlantic, and there's Around the World Arc. And the question is it worth it? Those clubs, those rallies, they charge a lot of money, upwards of $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to join, and they provide all kinds of support from visas to passports to all this stuff. I don't think it's worth it. Weather routing, all these things you sell with a group, and they have events all along the way as you're selling. I personally don't think that's worth it, because it's a lot of money, and you can do, with the technology today, you can do a lot of that yourself. I mean, a lot of guys that do it have a lot of money, and they like being in the, like the oyster around the world deal, and I don't think it's worth it. But if you want to spend the money on those rallies, you can. But that's my position on it.
I was going to ask you, you all got involved in YouTube early on. You guys got on very early. You came out. What was the prompting reason to make your life so public? We live in a society where everybody really wants to be private, our age, but your kids' age have no problem telling everybody everything they're doing. And what was the thought process, and did you accomplish what you thought you would, and what frustrations did you develop along the way?
Well, there'll be two totally different answers here. But we didn't get into the sailing and YouTube to be in YouTube. Renee's always cut videos and made videos, home movies of our family, and she's always had a talent for that. She loves putting puzzles together, so she always had a real skill for that. And in the beginning, our stuff was private so that our family could watch us back in Dallas what we were doing. And Renee was cutting that story about this idiot redneck guy taking his family, not knowing how to sail. She was telling the story in a way that was inspirational. I mean, you guys have seen it. And hats off to the way she cuts that out and edits that. But we got to the point, and our friends and family said, let's go public with that. And we decided to make it public because we wanted to inspire people, and it did. It inspired a lot of people, and it's fun for her. It gives her something. She's very talented at that, and that's the reason we did it. And the publicity and the public, I like sitting here talking to you guys. You can tell I enjoy it. I like visiting with people who are fixing to go make that move. Not because of us, but because they're inspired to do something different than the normal American drag. And that's why we do it now, is because we love seeing you guys. And I know that sounds cliche, but we love seeing people's eyes light up, not because of us, but because we're fixing to cross the Gulf Stream. We're fixing to go do something that very few people in the world do. And that's what motivates us and inspires us. And in return, we try to put something out that inspires everybody else. Now, our motivations for doing the YouTube are the same, still the same. And Nikki and Jason, they have a whole different, I mean, some of that's theirs, but I'll let them give their spiel on that.
Yeah.
It's to make money.
We learned that from you. Yeah. No. What? I said we learned it from you. Yeah. So for us, I feel like you should probably tell that story more than I should.
Well, I was a photographer, and the new Canon had just come out, the 5D Mark II or something, and it had this little red button on it. And at the time we bought the RV, I was like, well, photography's my business, so we're going to go on this trip, and I don't want to work. So I was like, I'll just push that red button and see what happens. And turns out it's like 10 times more work than being a photographer. Duh. But that's really it. I mean, there was somebody with the CW network that was one of our clients, and he said, you have to document it. You can't go on this thing and not document it and share it. And I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on YouTube. We were social in the social aspect, like the old school style, where you go to a bar or a restaurant and you meet people and you talk, and it's just kind of spawned from there. So there was no real idea behind it other than just sharing what we thought was going to be featuring other businesses, like whatever cool we saw on the road, like neat people, small corporations, small companies, little self-employed people. And then it turned out that most of the people following wanted to hear about our story, our struggle, and the things that we were going through and seeing. And that's kind of how it all morphed into sort of what it is today.
I like that you think we're that organized. Yeah. Yeah, so we know we need to capture the shots, and that was kind of learned behavior over time, right? It's, if you go back and watch our early videos, you'll see they were very painful. That's why you don't probably watch them. But we learned that we needed to, hey, we're walking to this place, and we know we are, but you don't know that we are. And so we learned to get those shots to help tell that story. So in the beginning, we didn't necessarily know how to tell a story. If you watch our early videos, it'll be very clear. And so that's been learned over time. We progress every year, all the time. We are completely self-taught. Like, I mean, I was never in front of a camera. I hate hearing my own voice come back at me. It's like nails on a chalkboard. It makes you very self-conscious. It takes a lot of time to get over that. Like Ken being nervous up here talking to all of you. Talking to people doesn't really bother me. This is okay. If it was a large crowd, I think we'd all, I mean, I am still sweating up here. I'm very cautious about the shirts I wear sometimes to avoid the pit stains, because I get nervous. It's very uncomfortable sometimes, but the huge thing, and the people in this room, you're probably not the people that have left those nasty comments. I can't imagine that, right? So you're the biggest supporters that all of us have. And you guys are the reason that we are here. And I know I can speak for Zatara, and it's so weird because you come up to thank us and all we want to do is thank you. Because you guys, for all the negativity that we get, and I cannot even tell you the negativity that we get. It's unreal. They attack you from every level, just like they would in anywhere else, but tenfold, right? It's about your looks. It's about the way you talk. It's every opinion you have. It's every mistake you make. People assume you put yourself out there. You're supposed to be perfect. We're not journalists. We are not experts. You should not follow nor, accept all information as Bible that you see on the internet from every YouTuber. We don't know necessarily what we're doing. We're just doing it, right? So we get judged on every level, but we also get an insane amount of support and love, and that comes from you guys, and that is what gets us up out of bed in the morning. And every single one of you that says, I bought a boat because of you, or I got out and I went on this trip because of you, or I was sick and in the hospital and I was bored and had nothing better to do, and I found you on YouTube and I binge watched, and then I never thought about doing this, and now here I am. I mean, the stories range so much, and we don't think of what we're doing as, we don't think we're special or unique. Most of the time we think we're a bunch of idiots running around and well in over our heads, but you guys come up to, because we are, I mean, it's true.
Nothing to do with that.
So it's the support we get. It's knowing that we make a difference to you, that we're inspiring you. That's why we keep doing it. And when we stop getting that feedback, and when somebody's just coming at us with the negativity, then that's probably when we'll stop. But otherwise, as long as you keep telling me you're making a difference, please don't stop. You're the reason I got into this. You're the reason I convinced my kids, whatever the case may be, then we're going to keep at it.
Yeah. Let me just add something quick before Thomas jumps in there. I've spent a lot of time with the Wynns, not with these guys so much yet, and bigger boat, and yeah. So I've spent a lot of time when they bought the boat, and recently now, and day in, day out, they are servants to the computer, to producing videos, and it's frustrating for me to see that, because I know that when they're in the tropical place on their luxury yacht, they are grinding away producing videos that people are enjoying. And a lot of the time I read the comments as well sometimes when I watch the videos. And a lot of people don't appreciate the amount of effort that goes into putting the camera over there and then walking past it and then going back and fetching a camera. Even if you're in a bad mood and you've just had a fight, you've still got to put on that face. And, right? And it's a brutal lifestyle, in my opinion, to be able to produce YouTube videos. And generally the public doesn't appreciate it, but I have seen it first time hand, and it takes a toll to put those videos out there, you know. So, you know, I certainly appreciate it more having interacted with them, you know.
Thank you.
All right, we're really short on time here because I want to make sure you guys have time. We're going to do one more question, and then I'll have an announcement for you.
So we already have a boat. Sorry, Kent. But my question is, we're doing a major refit on our boat right now, which is going to involve a lot of changes on the inside. So my question is, for all of you, including the kids, what kinds of things do you wish, if wishes were fishes and the sea were full, what do you wish you had on your boat that you don't, or you would like to put on your boat to make it bigger, badder, stronger, faster, more comfortable?
I will tell you right now, our actual next talk is going to be the 10 things we wouldn't sail around the world without. So we'll tackle that here in a few minutes after our lunch break.
But what is the number one thing that you would like the most on the boat?
Oh, a dishwasher.
But my response is, I have a dishwasher. Its name is Jason, and it works just fine.
A hot tub.
Fender Telecaster. An infinity pool.
I already have it, but I wouldn't sail without a washing machine. We have a washer-dryer combo, and I love it. Oh, yeah, we don't have the dryer anymore. Yeah, we hang everything out on the line, but I love my washing machine. I wouldn't sail without a washing machine.
Does anybody know what I'm going to say? The Go Fast Dinghy. That is the machine. You don't want to go to sea without a Go Fast Dinghy. That's the number one. And number two is for us, and I'm sure they'll cover it. Have a big water maker. If you've got a big family, you want a good, heavy-duty water maker that's simple and easy to use. And a washing machine, but that Go Fast dinghy and having an expedition dinghy makes all the difference in the world when you're sitting out there on the hook and all your friends can't go where you can go because you've got a dinghy big enough to go 20 miles across a lagoon, and they're stuck there because their little thing's going to go, you know. We have the pineapple cup. He does not.
As the race course designer, I could have cheated and made more turns, and I would have won. I just want to point that out there. And my dinghy is plenty fast enough and plenty big enough for the two of us. Thank you, guys. Thank you.